Hey everyone, it's Jimmy with a reminder to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell and turn on all notifications. Also, don't forget to leave a comment saying where you're listening from or just saying I'm doing my part. In a chilling cell phone video recovered by Florida investigators, 32-year-old Sonia Exelby appears bruised and hesitant as a man off camera presses her to state how she wants to die. This vulnerable British woman had flown across the Atlantic in October 2025, not for a dream vacation, but for a dark purpose. She allegedly arranged to have a Florida man do horrific things to her and then ultimately kill her. Yet even as she haltingly consents on camera to her violent end, her visible hesitation hints that she may have been having second thoughts. Just days later, Exelby's remains were found buried in a Florida woodland grave, and an international investigation raced to unravel how this macabre pact turned deadly. Sonia Exelby was by all accounts a troubled soul seeking a way out. Hailing from Portsmouth, England, she had privately battled extreme mental health issues for a long period. British investigators later discovered writings on her computer, and even a letter, in which Exelby described plans to travel overseas to be killed. She even anticipated with apparent excitement that she might be mutilated or disabled if the grim plan didn't finish her off. On October 10th, 2025, Exelby boarded a flight to Florida, arriving at Gainesville Regional Airport with this fatal mission in mind. Family and friends were unaware of the full extent of her intentions, but they knew she was vulnerable. When Exelby failed to return on her scheduled flight back to the UK 3 days later, alarm bells rang. She had missed her October 13th return flight without explanation, prompting her loved ones to report her missing. One concerned friend posted on social media that Exelby was a vulnerable person, likely in an extremely dangerous situation after meeting someone in Florida. Unfortunately, their worst fears would soon be confirmed in the most disturbing way possible. By mid-October, the disappearance of Sonia Exelby had escalated into a cross-border case. On October 13th, UK authorities contacted the Florida Department of Law Enforcement via Interpol, urgently reporting Exelby as a missing and endangered person. The information they provided was startling. Exelby had openly discussed wanting a violent death and traveled specifically to find someone to carry it out. This was no ordinary missing tourist. It was a potential arranged meetup with the expressed purpose of ending her life. Florida law enforcement immediately joined the search, aware that time might be running out. Authorities had access to her digital footprint, including the ominous letter and online communications, which revealed the depths of her desperation. Armed with these clues, Florida authorities began retracing Exelby's steps from the moment she landed in the state. Central to the investigation was identifying who Exelby had come to meet. It didn't take long for detectives to zero in on a suspect, Dwayne Hall, a 53-year-old man from Ocala, Florida. Hall was no stranger. Evidence later showed that he and Exelby had first connected about 2 years earlier on a website called Motherless. I decided I wouldn't look this one up for my research, and based on the descriptions of the site I've read, I'd suggest you also do the same. On this platform known for extreme content, the two allegedly formed a twisted pact. Hall claimed that Exelby had reached out because she wanted someone to kill her, and he answered the call. According to police reports, Hall portrayed himself as a kind of, quote, mentor, trying to talk the woman through her dark desires. In reality, he admitted he had violent tendencies of his own. Investigators suspect that Hall was an eager participant in Exelby's deadly plan. They allege that he was fully prepared to kill her from the outset, a theory supported by his suspicious actions before and after her arrival. In fact, Hall had gone shopping at a Walmart for rope and a shovel, right before picking Exelby up at the airport, indicating careful preparation for what was to come. After landing on October 10th, Exelby met Hall in person for the first time. Hall picked her up from the Gainesville airport and drove her to a rented Airbnb property on a quiet road in Reddick, Florida. There, over the course of that weekend, events took a gruesome turn. Hall admitted that he and Exelby had consensual encounters multiple times at the rental house. And just to be clear, these were his admissions, so whether anything was ever consensual remains highly contentious. But far from a vacation fling, the encounter reportedly devolved into extreme acts, allegedly with consent. Hall himself confessed to taking a disturbing video on his cell phone during the weekend, a video he tried to delete but which forensic experts recovered. The footage is harrowing. It shows Sonia Exelby in a disheveled state with bruises covering her body. In the video, Hall can be heard interrogating her, asking why she's here and seeking her explicit consent. Exelby's response is heartbreaking. She says she's there because she feels she's an awful person who has hurt everyone who ever loved her. It's a statement that underscores her fragile mental state. As Hall pressed her with questions about what she agrees to, she nods and gives answers. At one point indicating she consents to being stabbed, but detectives noted she appears hesitant, visibly upset, and afraid even as she acquiesces. It seems that in the cold reality of that Airbnb, Sonia Exelby began to regret the very fate she had sought. On October 11th, likely overnight during her captivity, Exelby managed to send a desperate message to a friend via the Discord messaging app. In that text, she revealed that the situation had spiraled beyond her control. She wrote that the man she was with had made it clear there was no way out. According to these messages, he advised that she could leave, but only if she killed him first. It's been speculated that this was another form of sick psychological control, knowing that this extremely emotionally distraught woman couldn't stand up for herself. Exelby lamented that she had expected him to end her life swiftly rather than prolong her terror and give her mind time to stew in fear. This chilling message, later recovered by investigators, shows she felt trapped, afraid, and realized she'd made a terrible mistake. Exelby's panicked communication would be her last. After October 11th, all activity from her phone and bank cards ceased. Unbeknownst to her friends or family, within a few days, Sonia would be dead. On October 17th, acting on investigative leads, Florida law enforcement made a grim discovery. Sonia Exelby's body was found in a shallow grave in a wooded, undeveloped area of Marion Oaks, Florida. The spot was not far from where she had been held. Forensic examiners quickly confirmed the identity of the remains through fingerprints. At the burial site, investigators uncovered critical evidence linking the crime to Dwayne Hall. Inside the makeshift grave, they found a price tag and label from a shovel that matched one recently purchased by Hall. In fact, receipts showed Hall bought a shovel just before picking Exelby up, and a matching shovel was later found stored in his garage, stained with Exelby's blood. This was the same shovel used to dig her grave, solidly tying the suspect to the body disposal. An autopsy provided further answers. The medical examiner determined that Sonia Exelby died from 4 stab wounds. Disturbingly, investigators learned that Hall had mailed a package to an associate in Ohio shortly after the killing. Acting on this lead, authorities in Ohio searched the recipient's home and discovered a knife that tested positive for blood and carried Exelby's DNA. It appeared Hall attempted to hide the bloody knife by sending it out of state, but law enforcement caught up with this evidence as well. Piece by piece, the physical proof was mounting against Dwayne Hall. Even before Exelby's body was found, investigators had begun following a trail of digital and financial clues that pointed squarely to Hall. One major red flag surfaced when Exelby's bank in the UK noticed unusual attempts to access her funds after she went missing. According to arrest affidavits, on October 11th and 12th, there were multiple tries to transfer money from Exelby's accounts to a Florida business. This was a company later tied directly to Dwayne Hall. In fact, a payment of roughly $1,000 was successfully made from Exelby's bank to a company that listed Hall's home address in Ocala. Other withdrawal attempts were declined, but this activity was enough to alert authorities. Hall effectively left a financial fingerprint by attempting to loot his victim's bank accounts almost immediately after her expected death. These transactions led law enforcement to identify Hall as a suspect early on. By tracing the Solver Wolf's roadside assistance company associated with those charges, investigators connected Dwayne Hall to Exelby's disappearance. And yes, this guy was a tow truck driver who was quote-unquote helping people out in difficult situations. Confronted by detectives, Dwayne Hall's responses raised immediate suspicions. Initially, Hall denied knowing Exelby at all and offered various inconsistent stories about his recent activities. But faced with evidence, including the financial links and possibly knowledge of the video, Hall's account shifted. He eventually admitted that he had indeed met up with Sonia Exelby and spent the weekend with her. Yet Hall painted himself not as a killer, but as a reluctant participant in a bizarre scenario. He claimed Exelby had essentially asked to be killed, and that he was trying to help her fulfill that wish. In an alleged attempt at justification, Hall told detectives that if he hadn't been acting consensually, he would have tossed her body to some gators. I like to call this the "if I did it" defense, named after O.J. Simpson's book of the same name. He stopped short of directly confessing to everything. When pressed point blank if he had killed her, Hall declined to answer. Chillingly, though, he said that she's happy now because she got what she always wanted. This unsettling statement suggested that Hall wanted police to believe he had merely given Exelby the violent end she sought. With a body recovered and a mountain of evidence, authorities moved swiftly to charge Dwayne Hall. On November 17, 2025, a little over a month after Sonia Exelby's death, Hall was formally arrested and charged. The charges reflect the allegations that he not only killed Exelby, but also unlawfully restrained her once she tried to back out. In addition, Hall faces a variety of charges for his financial crimes against Exelby, including fraudulent use of her credit card after he eliminated her. At the time the indictment was filed, Hall was already sitting in jail on those earlier fraud charges, meaning he had been in custody since mid-October. Hall's case has only just begun winding through the Florida courts, and he's pleaded not guilty to all 4 charges against him, and he remains innocent until proven guilty. The killing of Sonia Exelby stands as a heartbreaking cautionary tale. It highlights the extreme vulnerabilities of those struggling with mental illness and how predators can take advantage of such despair. In the end, regardless of any prior agreement, the law is clear that no one can consent to their own killing. If the allegations hold true, Dwayne Hall took the life of a troubled young woman in a horrific manner, and he may pay for that with the remainder of his own. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy here, reminding you to subscribe and hit the notification bell and turn on all those notifications. Also remember to check out the membership option by clicking join, or hit the Patreon link in the description. A routine trip to a Georgia Walmart turned into a nightmare on an October evening. The father of 18-year-old J.T. Schroeder rushed to the store parking lot after receiving the call no parent ever wants. He arrived to a horrific scene. His son lay critically injured in a pool of blood, surrounded by shocked bystanders. In the suburban shopping area of White Marsh Island, a normally quiet community just outside Savannah, the eruption of violence was startling and brutal. This shocking violence over something as trivial as a shopping cart left the community reeling. 48-year-old Delano Middleton was pushing his shopping cart out of the store when 18-year-old Schroeder allegedly kicked the cart while walking past. For reasons still unclear, that brief encounter exploded into violence within seconds. Middleton allegedly pulled out a knife in an instant and stabbed Schroeder multiple times in a frenzied attack. The teen was stabbed more than 10 times, according to his father's account of the crime scene. Bystanders immediately called 911, and officers arrived around 6 that evening to find Schroeder bleeding badly from numerous stab wounds. Emergency responders rushed the gravely injured teen to a local hospital. Despite doctors' efforts and life-saving measures, Schroeder couldn't be saved. He died from his wounds after a few days on life support. News of his death sent shockwaves through the community. Those who knew him spoke of his kind and selfless nature. His girlfriend said he had an incredibly big heart and a remarkably sweet soul, and friends noted he would do anything for the people he loved. At a candlelight vigil held in his honor, his father revealed he hadn't slept in weeks. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the devastation done to his son. Right after the stabbing, police began working to piece together what happened and who was responsible. Both Middleton and witnesses were questioned by officers at the scene, but no charges were filed initially while the investigation was ongoing. The area was treated as a crime scene, as detectives gathered evidence and reviewed Walmart security footage. Police said they would consult with the district attorney's office to determine appropriate charges, pending the victim's condition. For several days, Middleton remained under scrutiny, but wasn't charged while Schroeder clung to life in hospital. Once he passed away and the case became a clear homicide, authorities swiftly moved forward. 1 week after the attack, police secured a warrant and arrested Delano Middleton. He was booked into the Chatham County Jail and is being held without bond. And yes, in case you were wondering, and in case I wasn't clear enough, this psychopath was walking around on the streets for a week after stabbing an innocent teenager. But trust me, the twist gets so much worse, and it'll have you questioning why this man was turned loose to begin with. As the case unfolded, disturbing details about Middleton's past came to light. Court records showed he had a history of violence, with prior arrests for aggravated assault, battery, and weapons offenses in 2021 and 2023. Notably, he had stabbed another victim back in 2021, an attack on a Savannah woman named Erica Young that was similarly sudden and unprovoked. Young, a U-Haul employee, tried to help Middleton at her workplace, only to be viciously assaulted and knifed multiple times in the stomach and head. She recalled that during the frenzy, Middleton told her he wanted to watch her bleed out as she lay wounded on the ground, underscoring the level of rage in his actions. Middleton was eventually arrested for that crime and underwent a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation in 2022. The psychiatrist initially found him mentally unfit for trial, and after months of treatment, he was later ruled competent. In 2023, he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of aggravated assault and was sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by 8 years of probation. Having already served about 2 years behind bars awaiting the case's resolution, he was released on probation under the plea deal. Thus, at the time of Schroeder's slaying in 2025, Middleton was still on probation from the 2021 stabbing case. The revelation that a repeat violent offender was free to allegedly slay an innocent teen fueled outrage in Savannah. Erica Young was interviewed by a local Fox affiliate and was especially angered to see the man who nearly killed her now accused of doing the same thing to someone else. She bluntly said that the justice system completely failed, not only her, but the entire Schroeder family and society in general. Notably, Erica Young drove several hours to stand with the Schroeder family at his public memorial to show support. Bonded by trauma, the two families offered each other support and vowed to ensure that justice is served this time. As of now, Delano Middleton awaits trial, and if convicted, the 48-year-old faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison.